And welcome to another edition of Rosen Sports Monday. And I am absolutely thrilled to have my bestie friend and longtime co-worker with me today. And that's, of course, is Amelia Santaniello of Channel 4, WCCO TV. And before we start our conversation, I want to thank our two big sponsors, Broadway Dental, Dr. Ben Stein, one of the best in the business, Northeast Minneapolis, not just your normal dental care, but if you were a loved one has CPAP issues or sleep apnea issues, please go see him. He has the wonderful solutions for those issues, which is becoming more and more commonplace today. And also Charlie Swanson, a good friend over at Lexus of Wayzata, Lexus of Maplewood, top-notch guy, top-notch company. We want to thank both those gentlemen for their sponsorship of Rosen Sports Monday. Well, Amelia Santaniello, I have not seen you on TV for a while, and I know the viewers panic when you're not on for a while, or any of us used to be on. So I kept thinking you're at some exotic island, you got to get away, you got away from the kids who are now grown up, they don't need your services anymore. Your husband went, I'm going to go fishing anyway, so go ahead and take off some time. Boy, if we were only living that kind of glamorous life, but that's just not the case, is it?
No kidding. Rosie, I would like to have been in Turks and Caicos. That would have been nice, but no, that's not the situation. I actually had foot surgery, bunion surgery, and that went really well. The surgery, everything went well. Dr. Chris Coetzee did it at TCO.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the recovery period. You know, you can't start walking too soon. You have to be really careful. And I'm wearing this boot on my foot. The problem is I have to, even when I walk a little bit, it swells up, which then tightens because I'm wearing this brace. You have to elevate it. So that's the reason. I mean, I was going to try to go back to work after 2 weeks.
Right.
But it bothered me so much. And, you know, I mean, where am I going to elevate my foot walking from, I know it sounds crazy, walking from the desk to the studio. It's a haul when you have had surgery. So this is what I've been doing 2 weeks straight, really in bed, catching up on binging a bunch of shows and just slowly getting back to it, you know, trying to walk a little more each day.
Yeah, I remember when I had my knee replacement surgery, and, and that was a lot of fun. Not only did you have to be my chauffeur, but you had to get the pillow to rest my leg on when I was doing the show. My!
I think knee is more difficult. Though,
yeah, it probably was. But are you amazed? Honestly, we all live in kind of a vacuum when we're on TV on a nightly basis. The reaction you get. Where's Amelia? They care. I mean, we are in their living rooms every single night, and they care about you.
I know. You know what? It has been the sweetest, humbling, you know, because as you know, the television business has changed so much. Mm-hmm. So the viewership, you know, each year it starts getting slower, you know, lower and lower. But to see that people still watch and still care, and they feel, I think it's such an honor that they feel like you're part of the family.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I've been overwhelmed by it. And that's why our news director is like, Amelia, can you please at least just give like a little update? Because people have been asking me. I've been getting emails. Because normally I wouldn't say anything. I had foot surgery, you know, and I was out. But yeah, it's been really nice.
Has Frank been the butler, the cook?
Oh, please. Rosie, you would think the way Frank is talking, honestly, you would think that he has been carrying me on his back up and down the stairs.
Like a Sherpa.
Yes. That he's been like bathing me. I mean, seriously. He said to me when I went and I got my stitches taken out after 2 weeks.
Right.
He said, yeah, oh, well, this is good. You can move a little bit more because it has been really, really a lot between taking care of the dogs. This is what he actually said, and taking care of you. And I was like, hold on a minute. Hold on. Because I don't know if it's a guy thing and a girl thing, but when I'm sick, I kind of want to be by myself, you know, and I don't want anybody fawning over me. Let me just kind of deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I did need him for 2 days. You know, the first 2 days were rough. But I think as a guy, he likes to be waited on, you know, cared for.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Well, wait, remember when he had the surgery? He had hip surgery?
Of course.
He had a bell that he would ring, like when he needed me. I'm like, okay, yeah.
So as someone who's used to a routine, some social aspects of your life, but also just, you know when the clock ticks and you got to get ready, you got to get the makeup on, you got to put the work clothes on, you got to go in and dig into the newscasts, et cetera, et cetera. Really beyond binging some shows, what have these last 3 weeks been like for you? I mean, you enjoyed
it
a
has
lot?
been the last time I probably took this time off is when I had my kids, right?
Yeah.
And you're constantly going and you're sleep deprived. This has been really strange because the longest, I think one time I took vacation for 2 weeks. And I think you and I have talked about this. You really don't start relaxing until that second week. You
Mm-hmm.
finally are able to kind of wind down and enjoy it. So I am getting a little antsy. It's listen, but it's been nice because I haven't had to do anything, as you said, because you have a routine. You're
Right.
constantly going, and I feel like I constantly have to squeeze in everything before I go into work. I have to, go through the wire,
Mm-hmm.
watch, read articles, see what's going on, and doing all of that. It's been a nice sort of mental break too, you know? So I'm going to be very relaxed when I go back to work.
Too relaxed. It will be.
Too relaxed is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone
Yeah.
misses you, and it'll be
Well,
good to have
thank
you back
you.
on. And for those who are not acquainted with your background, I mean, I've heard your story a number of times, but I think it's important for folks to understand the way you grew up. And you moved around a lot. I mean, as a
Oh, yeah.
kid.
Which I think it really did prepare me for this job in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my father was in the Air Force. He was born in Pennsylvania. He met my mother from Japan. She's from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born in Alexandria, Virginia. Then we moved to Japan, then moved to Texas, and then back to Japan again, and then moved to Pennsylvania. So I had it's part of being an Air Force brat. You
Right.
just move around and you have to get used to starting over, right? Making new friends, getting to know people and doing that. So I think it prepared me for this business because I was used to doing that, moving, new place, get acclimated, figure it out.
And I can
So,
see as long as I've been around you, how easily you do make friends and keep them and socialize with people. Maybe that had a lot to do with the way you grew up, and that you sort of were, for lack of a better term, forced to make friends. Otherwise, you've been sitting by yourself a lot, because that's not easy when you're a kid to kind of get integrated with the new environment, new kids who can sometimes shun you if you're not
yes.
part of their group.
Oh, absolutely. And so the last place, so I was moving around to bases, Air Force bases. So a lot of the kids were in the same position as me. I will say probably the most difficult move was my sophomore year in high school,
Mm,
going to a school in Pennsylvania, North Pocono. And all of those people, the majority of them had been with each other since kindergarten. So they
sure.
all knew each other, right? So they've had these long established relationships and friendships. The only thing, the saving grace was probably, well, my cousin was going to that school, so I got to know her friends, but then I played sports. So I was able to quickly make friends that way, as you know how sports, teams and
Sure.
that camaraderie and that bonding. And that was probably the best thing for me.
What sports did you play?
I played basketball. Volleyball was my sport, but
Mm-hmm.
also played basketball. My freshman year, I played field hockey.
Oh, I remember that. The
Um,
girls always had to play field hockey. No, they did. That was it back when I went to school, because they didn't have, Title IX didn't exist then, so they didn't
I
have
know, right?
opportunities to
Yes.
participate. I'm not mocking it. I'm just saying that was the reality of
Uh-huh.
what options girls had many times.
Absolutely. And I played softball.
Yep.
I didn't play in my high school. I played like that during, middle school and all, but not high school.
Well, having been on a few of those trips with you, going to the
Are going to
lake,
the lake trips? Are you
yeah,
talking about?
you could be pretty competitive. I see that side of you. So that your sports competitiveness does come out once in a while, although always with a chuckle.
I know. I do get competitive, but as I've gotten older, I've come to realize, all right, it's bowling, Amelia. Don't get that excited about it.
Exactly.
You're not going for the gold.
Yeah.
My husband, on the other hand, as you know,
Oh yeah.
he
Yeah.
he's a little off. I'm like,
Yeah.
you do
He
realize
needs help.
this. Oh my gosh, he's hyper competitive.
Yeah, even at
Hyper
the state
competitive.
fair, correct. Even at the state fair
Yes.
competition in
Oh my
particular.
gosh, yes, Rosie.
Yeah.
He was hyper competitive about that.
So when did you
Still is.
first get the bug for journalism, whether I say broadcast journalism or just journalism in itself? Were you always attracted to writing? What did it for you?
Yes, that's the writing part is, I think, what did it for me. I loved writing. And I just remember I had an English teacher when I was in seventh grade,
Mm-hmm.
and we would have to write stories and all that. And she was extremely complimentary, but she also was extremely encouraging, and she could be tough when she wanted, when she had
Sure.
to
We
be.
all had one of those. Yep, for sure.
Yes, yes. And I and so I enjoyed the writing, reading, and keeping on top of things. Like my parents would watch the news, and I would watch that. And actually, it was one of my aunts. She said to me, "Have you ever thought of going into reporting?" Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's when it all started clicking for me. But
What
yes,
and what was your first broadcast on air job?
my first on-air job was in Elmira, New York. But before that, I was in a reporter trainee program at WSA in Washington, D.C., which Angela Davis, I trained her
Oh my
in.
goodness.
Yes. So what they would do is you acted like you were sort of a field producer. So I would go out with the photographers, do the story, the interview, come back, write it, the same time as you're a reporter, you have a deadline, and give it to an anchor or a reporter to
Mm-hmm.
voice. But my actual on air, then it prepared me for my first on air job in Elmira, New York,
And
where
you
you
were
had to
making,
do.
man, you were making the big bucks back then,
Do you
right?
know what I was making in Elmira, New York? I think about it. I was just talking about this to somebody the other day. Honestly, we get a weekly paycheck, and I'm not exaggerating. I think my paycheck was
Oh,
$150
yeah. Oh, I remember those
weekly.
days. Yeah.
Remember, weekly? That's what it was. And because I remember when I took the job, I asked my parents. I said, I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to be able to survive on this.
Mm-hmm.
Rent, I did have
Mm-hmm.
a rent, 300 a month rent.
Think about that.
That
Think
covered
about that.
everything.
How old were you at the time?
27.
Wow. And
Yeah.
your rent was $300 a month.
$300.
It was
26,
probably a
27.
decent place. You weren't living in a shack, right? I mean, it was
No.
yeah.
And it was all utilities included. Everything was included.
Oh,
So that
those
was just
good
300
old
flat fee.
days.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Today, I mean, I feel so bad for a lot of college
I know.
graduates. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I know
I don't
my
either.
daughter was just checking out new rental units. I mean, it doesn't matter where you look. I mean, unless you
No.
get a roommate,
No.
forget it. You're going to be spending almost a couple grand
Well,
a month. That's just the way it
Oh,
is.
100%. My son, oldest Sam, is in Chicago,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's had to live with like 2 or 3 roommates,
yeah.
because you can't survive
Right.
on your own when
But
you're starting out.
hearing these stories now, and I know you get the same sort of inquiries from young people who see you on TV, maybe want to get into the business, and I'm sure I got asked a million times, geez, I'd love to have a job like yours. Well, good
Yeah.
luck. But I mean, it
Yeah, I
takes
know.
takes all these years. But what kind of advice do you try to give young people when they say, hey, Amelia, I'm really interested in doing what you're doing, and how do I do it? Small market? Do I apply for internships? What's the best pieces of advice you can give to people?
First of all, I do tell them, because I've even just, from the very beginning, you get kids who write in or call in or they talk to you about it. But I always tell them, you have to really love what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think you're doing this for the money. If that's your driving force, then you shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to. You have to really love it and be passionate about it and care about it, and you have to be willing to go to these smaller markets. Although it has changed a lot, Rosie, since I started and since you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, your path is a different path too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
it's
mine was so
unlike, it's
unique.
very
Yeah, it was
unique.
crazy.
But when I started, you had to go to so many different markets
Right.
and build your way up to come to, a top 25 or 30 market. You have had to have done paid your dues in a sense. And I liked that too, because you're still learning and you can make your mistakes, and maybe people are a little more forgiving in those smaller markets. And so that you're prepared when you get to the big market to, hopefully
yeah, and
be
then
experienced enough.
in turning that page and using that logic, how did you end up finding WCCO TV, or how did WCCO TV find you?
So at that point I worked in Elmira, I worked in Scranton, Pennsylvania, I was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I was starting to look. I'm like, I wanted to grow more,
Mm-hmm.
and I got an agent. Well, this agent was, asking me, well, at that time, soliciting, trying to get me to be his client or whatever. So I went with them, and I had an interview with WCCO, WSB in Atlanta, and then I can't remember the call letters in Philadelphia. There was a station in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
all around the same time. And honestly, SB was interested, the Atlanta station was interested, and WCCO was interested. But I will tell you, and I'm not just saying this. When I walked into WCCO, it felt so good. When I came to Minneapolis, it felt like home, like the people, the community, and just the CCO, just everybody was really, really nice. Rosie,
Oh,
people
yeah.
were they were so accommodating and kind and all that. And I just felt, so when I got the offer from WCCO, I jumped on it.
Yeah.
And plus, also, that said, just the reputation of WCCO.
Yeah. You knew about that. Yeah. Was it a bit of a,
Yes.
did you have a bit of a Mary Tyler Moore-ish kind of storyline and coming to town and, the city and the whole thing? And here you are. I made it after all.
I made it after all. How many years? 96 I started there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You were single then.
I was single then. You've heard many of my stories. I was single then.
Yeah,
Yes.
I observed a lot
You
of them.
lived through a lot.
Because your future husband, Frank, of course, Frank Vesler,
Yes.
was he at CARE at that time?
He was. I came in May of 96 and he came in October of 96. And then we met in December
Okay.
of 96. Yeah.
And it just took off. It was just a fairy tale story at that point.
Yes, it was until it wasn't.
Until it was. Well, of course, it's not going to go that smoothly. I mean, but my goodness.
It was great.
Yeah, and then you were working with Don Shelby, right?
I was. Well,
I mean, for a little bit.
I was working. Here's what happened. So I came. Do you remember Deborah Sherman?
Oh, of course.
So
yes.
We both came at the same time,
mm-hmm.
And that was another reporter. And Ted Canova, who was our news director, basically said, okay, so you two are coming. You're going to one of you will be either the weekend anchor or you will be the noon co-anchor with Bill Carlson.
Oh, my.
So they had us. I mean, we reported and we filled in anchoring and all that. And then Ted made the decision. He offered me the weekend anchor position. I think Deborah Sherman did the noon for a while. So, well, when I came, there was Deborah Sherman and me, another reporter, and Ted Canova was basically our news director. One of you will anchor either the noon news or the weekend. And then eventually he offered the weekend to me and I started doing that. And at the time, as you know, there all these anchors had been there forever, right? The legacy anchors, Cindy Hilger, Colleen Needles, Amy Marcells was the weekend anchor. She left because she just thought, well, there's no movement. I'm not going to go into a main anchor position because Cindy and Colleen will be there forever. So what is it? 6 months after I was there, Cindy Hilger leaves, which was unheard of, right? She moved with her husband. And then...
Who was a former news director's general manager of WCCO.
Yes, exactly. And he went out to LA, KCBS, to be the GM there. So Cindy left. And then about 6 months after that, Colleen Needles left. So it all happened
in a hurry.
Like it really was a timing thing too, Rosie. You know what I mean?
That's what it takes. Sometimes it's just good fortune. And timing is everything. You're right. It's a legacy station. A lot of people stayed there forever, like the Bill Carlsons, like the Mark Rosens. I mean, the people that don't leave, Don Shelby. So it was a great opportunity for you. You did not get restless, and you were able to stay there and pursue. And then you got married when Frank was still at CARE, right?
Yeah, we got married. We met at a fundraiser that they used to do with all the media, and we met there. And then we eloped. Well, we broke up in between. He'll say it was we were on a break, but we never really broke
Friends?
up.
It's like
yes,
an
that's
episode
what it was.
of Friends.
Exactly. He uses that line from Friends. We were on a break. I'm like, no, we were actually broken up. But you remember all that because I would be like, oh my gosh.
I had a ringside seat. Yes.
Oh yes. So we ended up we eloped, we got married, and he was still over at CARE. And you know the funny thing is, we never talked about work because I think we're both highly competitive.
Right.
So he didn't need to know what stories we were working on, and I didn't want to know what was going on over there. And we did not talk about it. We just didn't.
And then eventually, well, of course, all roads led to WCCO for Frank as well. And that was interesting
and he came
timing.
Over to co-anchor. Yeah.
And so that sort of set the tone. I mean, I'm not trying to get personal here, but when you have those discussions, when you say, we want to have a family, we're both very busy with our careers, those are big decisions to make, and how you're going to raise the kids and who's going to take care of whom. And I'm not going to be a stay-at-home mom, and la-di-da-di-da. I mean, those are very big time decisions to make.
They are.
And
well, the big decision was, yes, is he going to, how am I going to be able to work with my husband? And you know what? I was a little naive
Mm-hmm.
because I thought, well, we're married. It's going to be fine. But we have so differing ways, our work personality. And I think a lot of it was, I had been at the station at that point, 10 years or more, so I knew everybody. So you've already built a trust. He's coming over and he has to gain the trust and,
Mm-hmm.
and become trusting of people. So it was a little rough the first month or so, but it's like you said, it's all worked out. Raising a family too, because now we were both, I was night shift, he was dayside. So it all, you know what?
Yeah, it took
And at the
time, but
time,
I get asked all the time. And I obviously sat across from both you guys in the newsroom for years and
yeah,
years, and we spent a lot of time together. You guys spend a lot of time
yes,
together, but I think the
yeah,
question you get asked probably the most, and I still to this day wonder and bewildered how people would say, as much as I love my spouse, with
yes,
a lot of time together, and it's a different environment when you're working together. I mean, this is not playtime. We're talking about grocery lists necessarily.
yes, yes.
Is that the number one inquiry you get all the time? Is that how
I
in the
do.
world do you do this? Do you
A
sit across from your
100.
husband
Yeah.
and not strangle him all the time, or not get into a shouting match or whatever it might be? I'm exaggerating, but obviously there could be friction. You're spending a lot of time together. It's not normal.
No, I know, Rosie, 100% it is. And I will say, like, there was a real learning curve there and trying to figure that out and work out the kinks. And then, there's that level of trust that you do have with the spouse. And listen,
Mhm.
I work with Don and I always called him my work husband,
Right.
but we can be brutally honest with each other and it's out of love, it's a nice way to be. And I
Yeah.
trust him and he trusts me. So we've gotten to that point, which is really good. And actually, I think it's made our marriage stronger because I am the Michael Corleone. I will hold a grudge. And, you know, when we're working together like that, and you have to go sit on a set, and as you know, the camera does not lie.
No.
I had to learn to let it go,
Yeah.
and let go of some things. And I think it's made our marriage actually better because you have to communicate, and you have to get over stuff.
Yeah, you guys are great partners and great friends. And
Oh, thank you.
listen, at this point, I think we're going to take just a quick break. I got so many more things to talk with you about. We're
Okay.
thrilled to have Amelia Santaniello join us here on Rosen Sports Monday, but time now to hear from our wonderful sponsors. Hey, Rosie here for Broadway Dental and my good friend, Dr. Ben Stein. I'm a patient of Dr. Stein's at both his sleep apnea clinic and dental clinic. He has a newly renovated and conveniently located dental office in Northeast Minneapolis next to Certix. I mean, it's the most modern facility you could possibly find. Dr. Stein has a great chairside manner. He's nice. He's understanding. He obviously knows his stuff, and he'll spend quality time with each patient. We'll make sure they are properly cared for. I want to talk about beyond the obvious dental care is sleep apnea. I was diagnosed with it years ago, and I was stuck with that silly, cumbersome CPAP machine, and I couldn't wait to get rid of it. And I mentioned it to Dr. Stein, and he set me up with his sleep appliance area. And it's the easiest thing in the world. You just pop an upper, lower appliance in each night. My snoring is gone. My wife says I don't snore at all, and I get a restful night's sleep. And if you have sleep apnea, Dr. Stein is the best to see as well to help you in that area. So if you want to contact them in Broadway Dental, give them a call at 612-379-2300. That's 612-379-2300. Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with two great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to LexusofWayzata.com or LexusofMaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today. Back with Amelia Santaniello. And Amelia, as long as I've known you, I know you're affected by stories, things off the air. I mean, we've discussed
yes.
personal issues, whatever it might be, and you're not afraid to show your emotions. How difficult is it to hold your emotions in check? To see, you got to be professional, you got to be this way, Because there are many times I think you reflect the community, you reflect what other people are thinking to kind of keep those stories, professional and not get emotionally involved. How difficult is
Yeah.
that for you sometimes?
Um, it's really difficult. It is because, as you said, as a professional, you're supposed to maintain like a level of objectivity.
Hmm.
So, but it's hard. It is hard. And then sometimes I can get in the mode where I'm like, I'm informing, this is my job. I have to, tell this story, read this story. But as you know, the ones, especially after having kids, the ones like with
Yeah.
children or families and all that, it's hard. I think the one time, I think it might have been Don, where I was really choked up and he just took over.
Mm.
I was off camera, it was a VO, and he took over
Well,
because
and there are many times you're seeing those stories for the first time. I mean, you are
yes,
reacting naturally. It's not like a scene out of broadcast news or something, the movie, where you're
no,
reacting. And this is all happening in real time and they're
yeah,
on live.
I will tell you this over the year, like there are enough producers now, especially, I love Scott Howard, where he will be like, hey, you need to watch this story before we go on the air.
Okay. Yeah.
Like this is going to be rough. You need to watch this, because he knows I will start crying, or you just get choked up. It's just, a natural emotion. But, and I will say, like you said, I think viewers are very forgiving
Mhm.
I've gotten emails after you, because sometimes I go, oh my gosh, that was so unprofessional of me, but viewers will be like, that's how we felt, thank you for
Sure.
showing that side of you,
Well, media people like yourself, I've been through it many years. I mentioned Mr. Shelby, your husband, Frank. We get recognized everywhere we go for whatever reasons. And I would say for me, 98% of the encounters are always positive. I think
Yes.
sports for me, it's such a common denominator. It's much
Mm-hmm.
easier for people to come up to me and go, hey, what do you think about J.J. McCarthy, the new quarterback of the
Yeah.
Vikings? Or, boy, the Timberwolves had a nice run. What are they going to do? As opposed to going up to you and going, I don't know, what about those tariffs? Or what about,
Oh, I know.
I mean, it's a different world we live in, but it's also trying to maintain privacy. I mean, you go out in public, you're not afraid to go out in public. You guys go out to, social events, you go to movies, you go to dinners.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
Yeah.
guys handle that individually and as a couple?
Well, first of all, I want to say about you, Rosie, you are so good. You are so good. Like I've been with you, I've been on trips with you, going to the lake, and you really are. The people push me out of the way to get to you,
Oh, come on.
and but you're really really good about spending time and talking to people, which I think is great. And it's the way it should be. You know what?
Hmm.
I look at it as it. I could be having a rough day walking into the grocery store, and somebody comes and talks to me. I feel like they look at me, they feel like I'm their friend. I don't know, is it part of the job? That's what I feel like, kind
Right,
of.
right.
That's what I signed up for. They see me,
Yeah.
they're going to come to me. And by the way, when they don't know me or they stop caring, that's when you have issues.
That's right. You get asked a lot. I know I've been with you a lot of times, and people ask you a lot about your kids, which is great. It's a
Yes.
source of pride, and rightfully
Yes.
so. But you do get asked a lot of personal questions as well, and you handle it really well
Yeah.
because it's an honor many times
But
to
it
talk to
really
people
is.
that
And
they.
plus, you know what? I know I don't have to tell them everything.
No, of course
I'm just
not.
having a conversation like with somebody I've just met, and you just go with it. And it's always, like you said, it is an honor that people feel comfortable and feel like you're part of their family or you're a friend, and they come up to you and they just want to talk about
Was
things.
there ever a
You know,
better time of mingling with the public than we all shared with Paul Douglas at the State Fair?
Mark Rosen, I kid you not. Paul Douglas took it to another extreme. It's like we
We'd be
had a
signing
line of
autographs for
people.
people, taking pictures with people. Paul.
Oh my gosh. And then he would like write a book in his autograph. I'm like, just sign it, and we're waiting and there's people waiting to
Oh
sign.
my
And he
God.
would have he would have 10-minute conversations. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes. God bless him.
Yeah,
Paul
we had
Douglas.
a lot of fun with that. But it is, and the one thing I try to tell people, and we've gone on trips. Like I said, we've done going to the lake. We work with our engineer like Art Phillips and the Joel Berghoffs of the world, all the photographers we work with. It,
So
it,
great.
it makes a difference. And it is, I try to tell people, it is like a giant locker room in there that, we work with the same people every day. When they leave, there's a hole there
Oh,
because,
there definitely is.
I mean, you can
There
feel it
definitely
because we
is.
spend more time a lot of times with these people than we do with our own families. I mean, that's just a fact of life.
100%.
So
Yeah.
when you get along and it shows and it doesn't have to be fabricated, it makes an impact and it does leave make a difference in your life.
And we have such a great group of people at CCO, as
Mm-hmm.
you know, they were all really, everybody was, I don't think anybody thought they were above anybody else. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, I'm better
Yep.
than you because I'm an anchor. I'm better than you because I'm a reporter. Everybody was just, everybody.
We had a few
Well,
exceptions, but I'll leave that
I was going to
alone.
say, well, there were a couple, but overall, really, for every station that I've ever worked at, I will say WCCO was truly like a family. That that hyper competitiveness that used to be between reporters that you see at other
Right,
stations,
right.
and didn't. You might have a couple here and there over the years, but that was not the reality.
Amelia
I mean,
Santaniello we're talking with right now. And I want to get your opinion about, you mentioned earlier about your absence right now because of the foot surgery you had. But how has, in your own mind, the business changed in the context of, we're on our phones right now and people know many times what the news is long before the 10 o'clock news arrives.
yeah.
In your mind, has it changed dramatically how you present the news and how the decisions are made on what stories get run? To keep it local as much as possible.
I think that's the important thing, right? To keep it local as much as possible
Mm-hmm.
because you can get national news everywhere. And I think that sense of community is what, and people want to know what's happening in their backyard,
Right.
So I think that's really important. But I do think, and this our business has changed so much because now we have the social media. So then you have people who can express their opinion and say things, and then you have social media, you have Twitter or X, Facebook, Instagram, and people they remember we used to get stuff by email. That's not it anymore. Well,
Right.
maybe once in a while still, but people will, just verbalize their complaints or type out their complaints, publicly about
Sure.
things. So everybody has an opinion. But that said, I do think the local news is real. It's still really important,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm. You can't get
and
those stories anywhere else.
you can't. You
No.
just can't. And I know there are people who have cut the cord and all that, and they go online. And like you said, because it's a constant cycle, right, of news. But I also think this whole AI thing is kind of scary, right?
It's very,
Because
very scary.
when you look online, you're like, is that real or is
Mm-hmm.
that an AI or where is this information coming from? And I think that all started. I'll never forget Tom Brokaw when the internet started. God, am I old? But
No.
when all that started, and he said, the genie's out of the bottle, but you always will need reporters in
Mm-hmm.
places gathering and reporting, and he said that, and probably back then for newspapers and all on and internet, should have started charging back then,
Sure.
to make money because I think that's what everybody's trying to do now. How do we make
How to
money off of
monetize
this?
it.
Yeah,
How,
how to monetize it.
how much are you encouraged from the folks upstairs, your bosses, et cetera, to interact with people through social media? I mean, whether it's promoting a story or just answering people in general. And I don't notice you as much on X. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know how much you do personally.
I will say this. Our previous boss, who I loved, it was and I think a lot of news directors are like this. They want you to engage and want you to do all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our current boss, it's not like he's pushing me,
Okay.
or pushing all of us to constantly do this, constantly be on media, because honestly, they haven't figured out, does it translate?
Yeah.
Does it
Yeah.
translate into viewers? How does it affect people,
Yeah.
Um,
Are the future kids, I mean, are the millennials even paying attention? I mean,
yes.
they even watch news. I mean, newspaper business.
Yeah.
Tell me the last time, and I'm a newspaper guy still. I get it maybe 3 times a week. The
Yeah,
last time
we
you
do
went to a
too.
coffee shop or a breakfast and you saw another human being reading
Reading
a
a newspaper.
newspaper.
No,
I mean,
I can't tell you.
I mean, I have really, as you do, we have really good friends in the newspaper
Yeah.
business. I really don't know how they make it anymore because the classified sections are basically gone. I mean,
Yes.
you can
And
advertise
that's
any
where the
which way.
money, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
where the money is. Yeah, and
Mhm.
you know, I mean, the variety section, as you know, when I used to look forward to seeing what movies were coming out on
Oh,
a
yeah.
Wednesday, they're gone. I mean, you can't find a movie theater in advertising. So I mean, saying that the whole business and television is kind of the same way, where people have just found different methods of
Of
getting
getting
their
their
news.
news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know, and they've also changed too because we have a lot of MMJs, right? Multimedia journalists
yeah,
who
explain that
go
to
and shoot.
people. Yeah.
It's a multimedia journalist. So then you have a reporter who is taking camera out and doing the shooting and the interviewing, coming back, writing
Right.
it, and then editing it. That was
Phew.
my first job in Elmira, New York.
Think
You
about it. It
know, I mean,
came full
I
circle.
yes. And so, well, we had photographers, but if there was not a photographer, then I would have to go out and shoot. And I shot blue video the one time because you have to white balance. And
Right.
I think after that, they were
Right.
kind of like, okay, this girl can't handle it.
Right.
But there are so many. We're in this market. We're market 14 now, I
Right.
think.
I believe
Twin
so.
Cities. And you would never expect to do that. You would strive to go to a bigger market so you could actually focus on just your
Mm-hmm.
reporting.
Mm-hmm. That's very
And it's
true.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. And that's what I think in schools, right, and colleges, that's how they're teaching these students, future journalists. This is what you do.
Well, let's all hope that, once this cycle goes through another cycle, that local television news in particular will still have its place, because I know
I do
for a
hope
lot of
so.
people, the media is the enemy, and
Yes.
it's we live in such a divisive world
We
right
really
now,
do.
and it shows, and many times the media is the subject of the vitriol from people.
100%.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, don't you think, Rosie? I mean, I think the Twin Cities market is it's such a strong market.
It is.
But I think that local stations are pretty objective
Mhm.
in their presentation of the news, or, you try to have those checkpoints there where people, we have to think of this. You have to make sure that this doesn't come across as bias.
Yeah.
Even certain words, you're like, yeah, you may not have meant it, but it can be construed that way or taken that,
Well, you can't win
but-
in many ways. No matter what stories you cover, then people will say, "Why didn't you cover this?" or whatever it might be.
No, you're right about that. But I do think like national news, you
Yes.
can go, Fox News is right. MSNBC is left. You know what I mean? Where I think local
Right.
really tries to remain objective,
Yeah.
100%.
And it's not an easy road to go down many times, because people will look at it. Remember,
No.
Pat Kessler worked at the station. He'd get it from both sides.
But that's what I said. I know. And then I told him, I go, well, then you're doing your job. You're getting it from both sides,
Exactly.
right? And you're right. You can't please everybody.
So if you look at your crystal ball, how much longer does Amelia Santaniello want to be co-anchoring our evening newscast? I mean, how much more do you got in you? People used to ask me that all the time. Of course, I had
What did you say to them?
Well, of course, I had before, as you know, when my wife Denise got
Yes.
brain cancer, that was kind of the end of it.
Yes.
But I was on. Before that happened, even, I had signed my last contract. I had a couple of years left, and I was presented in a way I went, you know what, I'm going to be done. I've had enough. It'd been almost 50 years of, when I was starting as a teenager. So I knew it was time for me, and I was happy about it and looking forward to, a different life. But of course, things happen and you get derailed and you have to start over again. So, you want to make your own decision. I'm sure at some
Absolutely.
point you want to be in charge of that. Both you guys.
I still enjoy it. And believe me, having the, it'll be 4 weeks when I go back in, 4 weeks off.
Yeah.
It's certainly given me a lot of more juice and a lot more we have Joe, one of our twins, will be going back to school for a semester.
Yes.
Because he wants to play football because he's tore his Achilles. So he's doing one more semester in the fall. And his twin is thinking of law school. So I had to break the news to her and say, you need to get scholarships and you need to start working to pay for your law school, because
Mama's getting tired.
Mama's getting tired. I don't know if I can work 4 years to put you through school,
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think it's way in the future.
Sure.
I think it might be more. Who knows, Rosie? I sit there and
you don't have to make a decision before you have to, because as the late great Bud Grant used to tell me. Yes.
Right. So they could be making the decision for me.
Yes, exactly.
So,
exactly.
So we'll see. I still enjoy it, and I still, as difficult as it is some days, because the world we live in,
Right.
I still enjoy it, and I still enjoy the people I work with, and I enjoy coming in, and I enjoy working with my husband.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's all positive stuff, and that makes a difference because we are integrated in this community, and that makes a difference. And it's been such a thrill for me to not just to get to know you and your husband and your family personally,
I love you, Rosen.
and professionally. It was a gift, and it's something I never ever take for granted. And listen, I can't wait to see you back on TV next week again. Come on, I mean, we got to get you back on there. Okay,
next week, and then we can meet for our breakfast.
as we always do,
as we do.
All right. Love you. Thank you,
so
much.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Take care of that foot, and
I will
kick Frank in the rear end with it once in a while. So, all right, folks, you've been listening to the wonderful Amelia Santaniello here on Rosen Sports Monday. Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks to Broadway Dental. Thanks to Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. My friends, Dr. Ben Stein and Charlie Swanson over at Lexus for helping out during this podcast. Have a great day, everyone.